Order. It's October 13th, 2020 at 3:33, and we're here today to talk about the 2021 budget. Present are committee members, myself, Mary Westfall, as well as Mark Fry, Doug Hanum, and Patrick Richardson. Also joining us from City Council, Brian McCann, Katie Cappellini, and Lindsay Stowe. From administration, we have Mrs. Brining, Toby Schroyer, Kevin Aller, Bill Sanford, and Mayor Stowe is with us. I do believe all council members and also Chuck Silvernail is in the room. Thank you, Chuck, for your help today. Everybody received their information in advance, or most of the information, and they also should have received in advance all of the information from our community partners who asked for support and funding. So there should have been plenty of time to review this information. I'm going to ask Mr. Schroyer to give us the high-level overview. I do have to say that I am grateful to administration for presenting a balanced budget today, and I'm optimistic that we're moving in a good direction in spite of the challenges of the pandemic. So with that, Mr. Schroyer, if you'd like to get us started.
Everybody should have in front of them 3 pages that I just handed out today that you haven't seen before. I just want to go over it. It's kind of a summary. I look back to how we got to where we are today. On the first page, it talks about the general fund and capital fund balances. If you look at 2020, that's through September, $8 million in the general fund. And as a total, $17.4 million. And if you go look at 2010, we're basically right where we were in 2010. Now, the $8 million does include the close to $750,000 in care funds that we have received already. We got notice today from the county, from Lucas County, that the additional $695,000 should be to us this week. So that balance will even go up further. My goal by the end of the year is to be able to transfer back the $6.7 million that the auditors say we need to transfer back to the capital fund out of the general fund. My goal is to be able to do that by the end of the year and have that over with, so we won't have to deal with that on our audits any longer. Like I said, it's $8 million, but it's really $8.7 million if you count that third CARES payment. So I think we'll have enough in there by the end of the year to be able to do that. The general fund balance may be a little low for a short time compared to what we like to keep it, but we'll let it build. It'll build up over the course of the beginning of next year. I'm not concerned about that. I'd like to get it off of our audit so that we're not written up for it anymore. Has anybody got any questions on that sheet? Can everybody hear me okay?
Toby, can you tell me, you said that the money will be coming in from the CARES Act into the general fund, correct? And yes. How much did you say that was in total? You gave me 2 different numbers. 1 point. We've
already received $750,000,
right?
Which is in that balance right now.
Okay, that's right.
We got notice today we're going to receive $695,000 sometime this week.
Okay, so you're transferring out $6.7 million, but we're expecting $695,000 to come in.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll wait till the end of the year to make sure that the general fund can withstand that transfer back. If I can only do $5 or $6 million, I'll still do it. Right. But I'm hoping to get it done in one time and have it be on our audit. So it wouldn't even be on our audit for 2020. Okay. The second page is a summary of what our income tax receipts have been over the last 10 years. If you notice, over the course of the 10 years, it's been averaging between 3.5% or 4%. We have some spikes, some decreases, some spikes. 2019 was a very good year, a 7% increase. In 2020 through September, we had a 5% decrease, which equates to about $400,000. So we'll keep watching that, but this is just a summary of what our income tax has been doing. I use this to kind of come up with the number, as we'll talk about later as far as going forward in the budget, what number I used for projections. And then the third page, I think you guys probably already received this, but I just wanted to explain it a little bit. It's a financial summary that I've been sending out to you guys every month. One thing to notice, as far as the expenditures, you see we're about $900,000 less than what we were through September in 2019. 600,000 of that is for healthcare. At this point, through September, at the point of the end of September in 2019, we have 1.5 million in healthcare expenses. In 2020, through the same period, we had 870,000. So that 600,000 of that, of the 900,000 difference is healthcare expense. And then there's just been a lot of little expenses that we just didn't do in 2020 because of everything that was going on. And that's the difference there. In the first big box, all the way to the right bottom corner, it shows that we have a $2.4 million surplus in all the major funds through September. I wanted to make a note that in November, we'll be making our annual bond payments. It's about 1.4 million. So that really is $1 million is really the number we're looking at there. But again, once we get, and then when we get that third CARES payment, now it goes back up to 1.7 million. So we're going to have a pretty significant surplus for calendar year 2020, even though our income tax receipts are going to be down. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions on that?
Thanks, Toby. I do think that's helpful information.
Does anybody need a copy of the pages 1 through 6 that I'll be going over next for the budget? We've got it as an email.
Toby, before you go any further, I want to back up just for a second. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
If we make the entire $6.7 million or whatever, do you, I presume you don't have any concerns that if we have another issue with a shutdown and a reduction in income taxes, that we're not going to have sufficient funds in the general fund to carry the ongoing expenses for the city?
I do not have any concerns about that, no.
If we ran into a situation like that, what alternatives would we have?
One alternative is to change the allocation, how much of the income tax goes into the general fund. But right now, pretty much most of it, because it's kind of, we send it into the income tax fund first and then transfer it to the general fund. The only recourse we could have is the amount that's going into the capital fund, which is about $1 million a year. We could get rid of that and have it all go into the general fund, and then we'd have to use our balance to do any capital projects. But I wouldn't take this below 2 million, the general fund. We want to have close to between 3 and 4 million in there.
Okay.
But no, I'm not, based on what the shutdown, the month and a half or 2 months that we had this current year, it didn't have a significant effect at all on our core major taxpayers. So no, I would not be concerned about that.
Okay, thank you.
So would you have another copy?
Page 1 through 6? Yeah. All right, if everyone wants to go, we'll start going through pages 1 through 6 of the 2021 budget highlights. And anytime you have questions, just interrupt me and ask. Revenues, start out with revenue. The income checks, collections, projected to increase 3.5%. That is not over the 2020 budget. That is over what we expect to receive in 2020. So I still think that's a conservative number because for 2 months in 2020, our income taxes were down. So to go 3.5% over what we're going to receive, I still think it's conservative, but I do believe it's a good number to look at. But we're basing our expenses on that number.
Toby, just a point of clarification. What is that number? It's not that $11 million number.
It is.
It is, okay.
Now that's split into 3 different funds, so you won't just notice it in the general fund.
Okay.
But it is at almost $12 million, yes. And if you go back to what I talked about initially, we had received almost $11.5 million in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just up a little bit from there. Our hotel tax has taken a significant hit this year, and I'm projecting in a normal year we get about $65,000 a year. It's actually going to be less than $40,000 this year, but I'm expecting about $40,000 to come in for 2021. Our permissive and gasoline taxes, which are get deposited directly into street funds that we can only use for certain things. We don't use that. We can use it for operations, but just in the street department. Those funds are up because you guys passed that legislation to get the extra funds. They're up pretty significant from what we received in 2019. Obviously, 2020 would have been up even further if it wasn't, for the virus, and the gasoline tax is definitely not what it was expecting to be. But in 2021, I think it'll go back down to where it was with that increase, with the increases. As far as comparing apples to apples, when you take out the transfers from the income tax fund to the general fund and just all other revenue, the income tax or the general fund revenue is actually budgeted to be $19,000 lower than what the 2020 budget was. So again, it's conservative. Court plays a significant part of that, and their revenue is down. Are there any questions on the revenue side of this? There isn't much as far as our local government funds. They've really not been affected significantly in any way with the shutdowns. Really, as far as revenue, it was the court revenue was a lot less than what it was expected to be. As far as expenditures, general fund expenditures are budgeted at just under $12.4 million. That's before the transfers out, and that's an increase of 1.9% from the 2020 budget, or $235,000. So that is comparing apples to apples. We do expect to transfer less dollar amounts out. When I say transfer out, that goes back to the capital improvement fund to help support the capital improvement projects. So that is projected to be less than what it was in 2020 because of the decrease in the income tax collections from what we expected to be in 2020. So apples to apples, the general fund expenditures are up to 1.9% over what they were in 2020 budget. Part of that is a 2.5% pay increase for the employees, union and non-union. This is a third year to last year. 2020 is a third year to last year of the contract. That calls for a 2.5% increase. The non-union, at this point, nothing's been approved, but in the budget is 2.5%. The community programs funding is $88,000, up from $85,000 last year. And if you go to page 5, there's two differences from last year. The Arts Commission asked for 12,000 versus the 9,000 that they had been receiving. And then Historical Village asked for 130,000, $7,000 less than what they received in 2020. The 12,000 is incorporated into the budget right now. So if there's any questions on any of those amounts, everybody else asked for the same amount, and that same amount's in the budget for them. So we got an extra $3,000 for the Arts Commission and $7,000 decrease for Historical Village. And I believe that $7,000 decrease is just less capital projects that they're doing over there than this current year. Number 4, we talked about that, the Historical Village. Debt service payments in 2021 is $1.85 million, similar to what it's been in previous years. Our outstanding balance is $13.5 million. If you go to the last page, I know it's small, it's hard to read, but I wanted to show this because a couple of things. In 2025, our debt payments will go down $300,000 a year. That will be directly be able to use for capital projects. That's our 2012 refunding bonds. The second category there will be paid off in 2025, so we won't have that payment any longer. And then in 2029, we have, in addition to that, we'll have an additional $500,000 available for capital projects. Because our bond payments go down $500,000 in 2029. So we're going to have, in 2029, we're going to have $800,000 additional funds to be able to use for capital projects.
Toby, is there a prepayment penalty associated with that 2025 amount that is going to expire?
The $300,000? I would have to check on that. Typically, at the end, it's not much savings to pay something down at the end, but I'll have to check. Those were bonds that were issued before I was here to see if there's a penalty to pay down.
The reason I'm asking the question is, if I recall, the proposed budget is about $1.4 million that we're looking to transfer into the capital fund for 21.
Correct, yeah.
That number just about equals what we would do to kill that debt on that last 4 years. And I know that you don't want to have that line item on an audit, and I get all that, and I'm sure Doug, he's talked about this off and on for years, is an incorrect finding, but be that as it may, I don't know what sort of interest rate we're getting right now, but it's basically insignificant in the big scheme of things. It's like, what, 0.1% or something? We're paying 2 points on this. Would we be better served to absorb one more year of an audit hit, potentially, and use the capital fund balance that we're already going to transfer much of it in anyways from 20 and kill that thing at 21? Save the other couple $100,000.
I certainly will check on that. A lot of times when you issue bonds, you can't pay it down because the investor likes that.
That's why I'm asking the question.
On our other ones, we could not pay it down, the ones that we've done since I've been here, but I will have to check on that one because it was before my time to see if that's the case.
Okay.
But
I would support that move, obviously.
Wouldn't we be able to make that payment from general fund dollars, not from the general fund transfer into the capital fund?
I'm not sure what you're asking there again.
I think Mark was saying we could take the $1.4 million that we're going to take from general fund into capital. Aren't bond pay downs capital money anyways? Couldn't we take the money to pay it down out of the capital fund?
The bonds are not paid out of the capital. What happens is we transfer from the income tax fund, which is receipts received for income tax, we transfer that into a debt service fund, directly to the debt service fund and make the payment out of the direct service fund, so it never hits the capital fund.
Could we change the allocation to do that?
We can change that without changing the allocation by just not transferring from or transferring more from the income tax fund to the debt service fund. We would leave the capital fund would be out of it altogether, but it'd be less money than that goes into the general fund,
Right.
the income tax fund. That's where it would show up.
Right.
But we could do that by 1.3 million because we have that surplus.
Yeah, the point's moot if we're not allowed to prepay it,
Mhm.
you know, but if we are allowed to prepay it, maybe we might want to consider
Good
that.
question.
I'll certainly find out about that.
Couldn't we pay our debt out of our capital, out of the capital fund, consistent with the goofy opinion we got from the auditor anyway?
Is that a legal question? There is we do everything through the debt service fund, but there's a way of doing that. We're moving the money around so many different funds that we could still do it, but pay it through the debt service fund still.
So we could move money from the capital fund to the debt service fund to pay the debt. Could we do that?
That might be a legal issue. I'll have to find out about that.
Check with the auditor.
We can transfer from the income tax fund to the debt service fund more money than what we're currently doing. We're just transferring now the money to pay the annual payments, but we could transfer more of that. It's just money that would not be transferred to the general fund.
Well, if we could save ourselves some money, if we can pay it early, we can save ourselves some money doing it. I'd be in support of that.
And it wouldn't take much to as far as the budget goes to make that change. It would just be less money going from the income tax fund to the general fund. That same amount would then go to the debt service fund to pay down the 1.2 million. That makes sense.
Yep.
It's legally done. If it's legally done, I'll check them for those bonds. So, the main thing I wanted to focus the extra 800,000, in 2029, if we could use for capital projects.
And that's provided we don't take out any other bonds for any reason.
Correct. Capital improvement in number 6 there under expenditures. The capital improvement fund projects total almost 4.8 million in 2021. Go to page 4. The list of the capital projects. It seems high at 4.8 million, but we're getting significant grant funding. If you look at the right-hand column, we're getting grant funding of over 2.5 million. So in essence, we're looking at 2.2 million in capital projects that would be coming that we're actually paying for. Kevin's here to talk about any projects, but Maroon and Moreau improvements is a big one, but 1.9 million, but 1.6 of that is grant money. Maplewood reconstruction, we're getting over half of that for grant money. The SOMO grant funds, essentially we're going to pay 600,000. Are we going to use that for the law? It depends. We're going to use it for SOMO. But that's grant money that we've already been approved, so it's going to be in and out basically. We're not really paying anything. Are there any questions on any specific projects?
Toby or
Oh,
Kevin, I'm
yeah.
sure I should know what this is, but AED replacement, what is that? Okay. Oh, okay.
Chargers.
Yeah.
Ours are obsolete. And, we actually had some luck getting some through our department, tank ratings, but this one is expensive.
As a 57-year-old man whose father has heart disease, I'm fully supportive of that thought process. Less than you want is a non-functional AED device. What do we do with the old ones?
I'm not sure they.
Okay, no deals or whatever, we're working through that. Okay.
Any chance you're considering an electric police vehicle?
Not in this round, that's not in those expenses. It's much more than 40,000 per. That's for 2 vehicles, and those are still.
Hey, Kevin, could you get closer to a microphone?
Yeah.
Sorry. I appreciate it.
No problem. And the police vehicles are not electric, not proposed as electric vehicles. They're still just regular unleaded.
Do we use the vehicles most of the vehicles 24/7?
Most of them, the new ones that come in, yes. What's done is the vehicle that new vehicles that come in with the road patrol and are used for at least 2 of the 3 shifts. Some of them use all 3 shifts. And then as they get higher mileage, then we'll pass those to the SROs or the captain or chief or something like that.
The reason I was asking the question is recharge time starts to become an issue at that point. If you're gonna, you need some, so there's got to be ability to swap the battery, or we're going to have more vehicles to allow for appropriate recharging time for the.
Yeah, that's actually something I would have to look into that, because it's, all of these vehicles, they're all beefed up because of transmission and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if electric vehicles have that ability. I'm not sure. I haven't read anything that police departments going to. It doesn't mean they're not, but that's a little thing that I haven't read about.
Maintenance would follow it. Big time. Because there's not much maintenance on an electric vehicle, other than making sure the battery's plugged in. And the acceleration on them is incredible. Sorry. In that case, I'm preaching to the choir. I realize it.
But when it comes to someone who is already drinking. So at some point, will we see the plans for the Random and Row improvements in the Maplewood reconstruction project? So that our millions are going to. I have 100% confidence that they're going to be safer than they were before. Mm-hmm. But I just would like to see that they're going to look really great too. I feel like it wasn't that long ago that we were like all talking about the Gateway project, and this really is Gateway project. So I just want to be sure that a good solution for all types of transportation, mm-hmm. Walking, biking, cars, and it's going to look great because it's our Gateway. So
we did lose some of the enhancements that we had included. There was a walking trail, a multi-use path, 10-foot multi-use path. During the discussions with Toledo Memorial Park, they were not interested in having that path across their property, and so we've had to reduce that. So we did kind of take a little bit of a hit there that I didn't really want to take, but when you're taking it right away from somebody, and that is one of their sticking points. We pick and choose our battles. That was one that we decided not to battle with. So that went from basically a 10-foot wide multi-use path to a 6-foot sidewalk. We'll have sidewalks on both sides, but
so it won't be for bikes; it'll just be sidewalks.
which is unfortunate.
Were they ever happy about their wall plans? Did that get figured out?
No, not yet.
They're not happy, or it's not figured out?
It's not figured out. Those discussions are still coming.
I feel like there might still be hope for a 10-foot multi-use plan. I feel like they could be agreeable if the right conversation was had.
While we're on expenses, if you want to, I want to go to page 3. Broken down by department, now in the general fund. The column all the way to the right is the increase or decrease between the 2021 budget and 2020 budget. Couple things I want to make a note of is the municipal court 2.4% increase. They're reshuffling or they're going through some changes over there. They have not submitted their budgets. So I went and did it myself. I'm comfortable with the number. It's 2.4% increase, but they kind of have their will on what they want to propose, and I just haven't proposed it yet. So.
Do you know when you're going to get it? Have they given you any indication?
They have not. They have, I think there's the person who had always done the budget, I don't think is being given that responsibility, and I don't know if they decided on how that's going to get done. So, they have been in contact with me just to say that it's not done. So,
Well, so really that's, I guess we've got 2.5 in finance and 2.0 in legislation, but certainly among the higher 18% up there in public cycle. Okay.
Do they understand where we're at in this process, timing-wise?
yeah, they knew what it was due. I think it's more of a communication situation with the court clerk. There's going to be some changes over there. And I'm not privy to those changes, but
Right.
I've been in contact with the court clerk who has always done the budget in the past.
Is it needed?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she has told me that she has communicated to them multiple times that do, and whoever is going to be responsible for doing it, that it's due, and they just haven't done it. So I'm not sure if they've even decided who's going to do it. But it is, I mean, I would not expect their number unless they requested something out of the ordinary. Their number should be any more than 2.4%. I'm comfortable with that number, whether they send something.
Well, the thing that disturbs me about this number a little bit is I thought when we approved the new magistrate, we were, I thought we were going to have a deficit here of $600,000 to $700,000, and now we're back to almost $900,000.
Part of the deficit being the way it is that the revenue, with the way they shut down and the way they're doing things now with COVID, the revenue is definitely way down for what they expected it to be.
So that's all on the revenue side, not on the expense side.
I really want to revenue side.
Okay, so that's a problem. Is that revenue problem going to continue next year?
I think it depends how they operate. I think might be able to speak more about that.
When the court was shut down, I know that, people, they weren't assessing fines and costs, and people certainly weren't paying them for the 2 months and they were shut down a little bit longer than the city was. I believe their shutdown extended to mid to late May. So I know that's part of the reason for the reduction in the revenue. And as far I know, well, I think am remembering that part of the justification for they were going to maybe look into being more aggressive with their collections of past due fines and costs, and I don't know how successful or if that has been done.
Well, I'm looking at the budget numbers, not the historic numbers. It looks like the historic numbers down about 300,000. The 2020 projected collections are about 300,000 down from the 2020 budget. But our 2021 budget revenues, and I'm looking at the total fines and forfeits number, is lower than the 2020 budget. Is that a projection of, it's only $100,000, but is that a projection that we're going to have continued lower revenues in the municipal court next year?
Even as they're operating right now, I don't think it's the same as what they've been operating before COVID happened, right, Leslie?
That's correct.
And I don't think beginning of the year it's going to go back to where it was before this COVID thing hit. I think they're operating in a different way than what they expected before all this happened. On the expense side, 2.4% increases. If you look at their budget, it's really heavily weighted on payroll, and with a 2.5% pay increase, so 2.4% overall is not unreasonable. It really is what's happening on their revenue side is why you see that $900,000 deficit instead of $700,000.
Yeah. Well, we're paying our magistrate pretty well. All right. Well, it is what it is.
And I think everybody's aware that the county stopped paying for the magistrate, correct?
Not any of it?
They don't pay any of it. They used COVID. When COVID hit, it's when they changed that.
Did they shut down the City of Toledo magistrate contribution too?
That's what we were told by our court, that it included the Toledo magistrates also.
Okay.
I don't know if you were able to confirm that, Leslie. I know that's what our court said.
Yeah. That I did confirm that.
Yeah.
That is true.
So that's going forward. We're not expecting that to change going forward.
Well, this continues to be, an ongoing thorn. I was encouraged we're making some real progress on this. But
there was some talk that initially the revenue that spiked initially, and Leslie, you could speak more of the operations of it, but the way they were doing it, it was going to be somewhat of a one-time spike, right? The way they were.
Right.
Was that in probation?
That's correct. They were, I think, just giving almost like, if you came in and paid it, they would reduce your overall fine. I think that was part of it. And I think people did that, and now they took care of the obligation, which was good, but that was just a one-time bump.
And they were expecting that. When all the times that they've talked to us, or before talking to us, they were expecting that to be somewhat of a one-time initial, but they still thought their revenues, they did increase all their fines and everything, so they were expecting revenue to be up. It's just the way that they've been operating during COVID, it's hurt their revenue side.
Were they eligible for any CARES money or anything, or any public assistance like that with the shutdown?
They did get some grants. I forget specifically what they were for. I believe probation received a grant for something. I know Lenny, the chief probation officer, submitted an application, and I believe there was another application submitted for some computers so that they could set up work, the ability to work remotely. I believe the Ohio Supreme Court administered that grant program. But I'm not sure 100% on what all they applied for and what all was received.
But what they got, we have is reflected in their revenues, I take it.
It is correct.
Okay.
Actually, their grant funding goes into the 405 fund, which is the fund. And then any of their capital projects come out of their 405 fund. So it won't be representative in what you're looking at the general fund. But it is their specific. Nobody else uses the 405 fund except the court, and it's their it's where they pay for their capital projects.
Okay.
A couple other departments that stand out as far as percentages. Police communications. What we have in the budget for 2021, we have 9 months of pretty much normal operations and costs. Even though some of the midnight shift is going to be a payment that we make to the county, financial wise, it's really not a significant increase or decrease. The reason for the increase is the final 3 months of 2021, which is expected when we go to countywide dispatching. We're going to have a payment, I think, of $120,000 for that last month. It's going to go to the county. But then the increase is we're still going to have these employees over here, not dispatching, but they're going to be doing records and other job responsibilities that Kevin and the chief have put together. What's in the budget is for 3 employees. There's currently 6 employees in the dispatch center. There's going to be 3 employees full-time, and that's going to keep the police department or dispatch center open 8 to 8, so 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But as the cost to the city initially for dispatching is going to go up until that the county dispatches phase down over the course of 5 years or whatever.
We have plans together to bring to you the 3 employees that Toby has in the budget will be our recommendation. They'll be coming. There's a letter coming to the next council meeting for the safety committee to get together to discuss those options. The plan that we put into the budget is the 3 employee plan. This is an option for 4 employees that would enable us to keep open longer. That comes at a higher cost. We actually put together a 5 employee plan, but the cost of that just seems prohibitive to me, and I don't think I'm bringing that forward.
Kevin, do you have anything that shows you what the use pattern is, how many people are coming in and out at certain times of the day?
We have a little bit. We don't have everything according to.
I just am at 8 to midnight time things. I'm curious if there's a higher traffic pattern or higher.
Our higher traffic is definitely through the day.
Okay.
There is no question of that. And once you get beyond the immediate time period after people get off work,
right,
it drops off.
Okay. And so that getting to 8 in the evening helps to get through that gap. Okay.
So about how many come in a day? Just in a whole, just one day at any time?
I don't have those. I don't have those. We have them. I don't have those.
And then I'm wondering, the people that come in, do they have, is it legit, like emergency stuff, or is it, I can't find my dog?
No, it's a combination. It's some people that
consider that an emergency.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Some people consider it. But it's a combination. I mean, we have domestic violence situations where people come here. We have kids that are having problems that come here. So it's a mixture. Yeah. I mean, we get the dogs too, but it's a mix.
One thing that's important is these three employees, Kevin and Chief, are redesigning duties. Some of the responsibilities that policemen or specifically sergeants have had in the past is going to these three employees, which is going to allow more officers on roads. It's not like they're going to just stay in their office and do other administrative duties. This is the intent of this whole thing, as far as these three employees that we're keeping, is to get more officers on the road. Correct, Kevin?
Yes. Yeah, our sergeant staff performs a lot of administrative and record keeping work that in most other departments that have been transferred to civilian staff. And our goal through this is to get those duties away from the sergeants and into with this civilian staff, so that we have those. We pay police officers to be on the road and to be interacting with our public, not to be in here conducting paperwork. It's not that they weren't doing what wasn't important and needs to be done, but I would rather have them on the road providing security. That essentially gives us additional road patrol for the cost of record. So that's what we're trying to do with this. Initially this is going to be a long process because we have 6 dispatchers, and we're going to be changing that. One has already obtained employment with another agency, so that takes us down to 5. We can't function 3 shifts for a long period of time with only 5 employees. So we'll be bringing hopefully to the next meeting, if we get all the signatures taken care of, but it may be the first meeting in November. We're going to be bringing an agreement to you for us to be able to use Sylvania Township for that 3rd shift dispatch that we need to get done until next September, when the county PSAP dispatch becomes available. So that's going to be a short-term solution, I'll call it, to handle the 3rd shift. And then in September of next year, when the county PSAP is up full and running, then we'll transition there. But because of the payment that we're going to have to make to the county for that 4th quarter, it's in keeping the assumed 3 employees on here, it makes that budget jump. The way the county's done that is they've apportioned, if you remember, there are a lot of townships and smaller cities that have never paid it. And the county agreed to not charge them for the year 2021 and for them to get their budget straight, get their budgets moving. They started charging them 25% and then 50%, and then over 4 years it gets to 100%. Well, everybody else has to carry that burden. So we're in discussions with the county to try to readjust that burden. But the agreement wasn't the agreement. And so that's what we're going to do.
And the 3 records employees will be paid similar to what records employees are paid in other communities, which at this point is less than the dispatchers. So they will be paid according to market value, basically, and it is less than the dispatcher will be paid.
So in 2022, if this is an extra $100,000 for the last quarter, right? Is it $300,000 or $400,000 in 22 more?
Mm-hmm. About 400 in 22. It keeps reducing. By the year 2024, did I say that right? 2024, we are essentially at a break even. If council agrees with the three-person.
To today.
To today.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like this is something we did understand at the time. I mean, we did slip back and can't quite recall all of the detail, but this isn't a surprise to us.
No, we reviewed it, and at the time we were only thinking about 3 employees. We took a look to see if we could extend those hours or whatever. And it can be done, but it comes at a cost.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe that we'll be able to adequately provide service and provide customer service, if you will, at the door with a day-to-day operation. And it's something that if we see is not working well, or that adjustments need to be made, we can do that down the road. If we go to that extreme, it's going to be hard to walk it back for some reason.
Anything else critical in that listing, Toby, from your perspective, or things that we should be aware of?
In the engineering department, the 17.7% decrease, we have our GIS coordinator left, employment here in the engineering department. By at least a year ago now, right? Close to it almost. And we had money in the budget in this current year to replace him, but with everything that went on with COVID, we have not replaced him. And Kevin doesn't plan on having that position in place until the second quarter of 2021. So that's why you see a decrease in the budget, because I didn't budget anything for the first quarter of 2021. The law department, the 35% decrease. We had money in the law departments in this 2020 budget to hire an assistant law director. But I think the plan going forward now is to utilize the chief prosecutor, the prosecutor, as also an assistant law director. So I took that money back out of the budget. That's why you see that big decrease there. And are there any other questions on any specific budgets besides those?
Thanks, Toby.
Page 2 is a listing of all the funds and the revenue, the budgeted revenue and budgeted expense. Significantly down there in the box, the lower right-hand corner, with all our major operating capital funds, that's the surplus, $197,000 surplus. So if anybody would ask you, did you pass a balanced budget? Yeah, it's a balanced budget with $197,000 surplus. Any questions on that? The water there, department on that page is showing more expenditure than revenue, but that's all incorporated in the water rate decrease that you guys voted on. And we were expecting that over the course of years, due to projects that will show a decrease or show a negative amount there. Okay, so summary on the page 1. We talked about that it's a balanced general fund with basically just over 13.8 million in revenues and 13.8 million in expenses. And the capital fund, this is what has been different in the past. In the past so many years, we've had a deficit in the capital fund because we've had more capital projects than the revenue coming in. But this year, we want to be more conservative with everything that went on with COVID. But so the capital fund is actually balanced with and somewhat of a surplus with 4.98 million in revenue and just under 4.8 million in expenditures. And number two, the first sentence where we just talked about the $197,000 surplus. 2020 is going to be a surplus, significant because of the CARES funding. 2019, we had an audited surplus of 1.4 million. If you remember, in 2019, our income tax revenue was up 7%, so that's why that was at. And you can read what previous audited years have been. Under number three, the capital fund balance at the end of 2021, providing we do what I'm talking about doing as far as transferring that 6.7 million or a significant amount, if not that amount back, it's going to be at least 15 million in the capital improvement fund. Why that's important to me, I know, with the 3 million coming up for the bridge project, it gives us another option. Obviously, issuing bonds will still be an option, but with the significant capital improvement fund, just using the fund balance will also be an option when we get to that point. So that would be nice to have an option. Most communities will just have to issue bonds; they don't have any other option. So, are there any other specific questions about anything regarding the budget?
Toby, there's a comment on that number three at the very bottom of the last sentence where there's no sale of city-owned property included in this. So the duplexes aren't, because I was under the impression that was going to close next year. Or is that going to close this year?
Next year.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume they are, but yes, they are. That is, I believe the closing date is February 2021.
Not that it's a Titanic sum of money. I didn't know whether that was embedded in these numbers or not.
It is not.
Okay, just verify that.
And also, we have what could be significant is the church property that's sitting vacant right now. That's a significant dollar amount. That is not in there.
Right.
At this point, we don't have any concrete needs that's going to sell.
Yeah. The reason I asked the question is because we already talked about it and passed something, say we're willing to sell it. We're going to close in 21, and I didn't know whether you were counting on that, which is fine either way. It's not a Titanic sum of money.
The close was dependent on when the leases would.
Yeah, eviction or expiration of the tenants moving somewhere else, right?
So there's probably a possibility that it actually happen this year, right?
I'm not sure. The leases are, I think everybody is planning to leave by the end of October. Is that right, Bill?
3 of them are empty. The last one will be empty at this end of this month.
Yeah, but I have not heard, I believe the purchasers still need to order title work and move forward with their due diligence on their end. And I believe they're waiting for the last tenant to vacate. So they could maybe get it done in those couple of months, but it may be January, February.
Any other questions for Toby or anyone else from administration?
Okay. What's going on with the apartments behind Kroger? And I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a significant income revenue thing for us or not, but what's going on with that?
Not much. The same developers have a pretty large project in the Waterville area, and I believe they talked about that project with ours. And they basically shifted most of their energy and resources into getting that project wrapped up, and then we're told that we move it up here so they can get this one taken care of. So the site contractor is the same on both projects, and that's what we're doing.
So next year we'll see some work on that.
Yes.
But we won't have any residents in there until 2022 in all likelihood.
Yeah, in all likelihood, late 2021, but I wouldn't anticipate that 2022 is more likely.
So Toby, just to refresh all of our memory, would you kind of walk us through what your hope is in terms of the process now with the budget and these next steps?
providing everybody's okay with the budget as it's presented, the first reading, our intent is for the first reading to be the first meeting in November. And we're fine with 3 readings. I know in the past we've done it with 2 readings. It will help a little bit, but 3 readings certainly will not be any issue with us. So it passed the first meeting in December.
I do feel like we have traditionally tried to get it approved by that first meeting. I think the only time when we've moved forward to 2 meetings is if for some reason it looked like it was going to go to that 3rd meeting in December. So if we can get it in, that would prep the time for the 3
helps
meetings.
Your council clerk. It helps her to sooner pass it to work on that year-end adjusting entry. But like I said, we're completely fine with 3 readings.
Any other questions or comments from council members?
Yeah, I don't have any other questions about this, and if it helps to move up that time frame, I'm fine with that too.
So is there a motion from a member of the finance committee to ask administration to advance legislation at the first meeting in November?
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Doug Kane and seconded by Mark Fry. All members of the finance committee that are in support, please indicate by saying yes.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and we'll have the budget. We'll request legislation at the October meeting that would come in the first meeting in November. Okay, Toby, thank you for your work. I know that it's a big task to get this budget prepared, and especially during this year with the pandemic where things felt a little more uneasy. I think you did a great job. We appreciate your thoughtful time and reflection on this, and then special thanks to the administration, the mayor, and all members of the administration who helped prepare their pieces for the budget. And with that, I would ask if there's any other business that needs to come before the finance committee. Hearing none, I would ask if there's a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mark and seconded by Mark Fry, seconded by Patrick Christensen to adjourn this meeting at 4:35. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any motion carries and this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you so very much for your time today.